So these are the bands that we were talking about earlier this week, where they've had the elastic separators in, they come back, they're able to put these bands on the molars. This will allow them to then anchor the wire to the bands. Okay, so that's those bands that we were talking about. So what we're gonna do is put the wire in. So if you look at these wires, they're different sizes. There's one that's a little bit wider and one that's a little bit narrower. One's a maxillary, one's a mandibular. The maxillary one is just a little bit wider, okay? Because obviously the maxillary arch is a little wider than the mandibular arch so that the teeth sit correctly. You wanna make sure to put the right ones in. If you don't, it's going to either put a lot of more pressure than what they want or not as much pressure as what they want because they're the wrong arch. So we have maxillary, obviously. So another thing that you wanna look at is on the midline of these, there's 3 little lines. And that tells you where the midline needs to be. So when they're doing ortho, the midline is very important because you don't want your teeth to be off the midline. You can be actually missing teeth in your smile and people won't notice, but if your midline is off, someone will know that there's something wrong. I think we talked about this a little bit before when we were watching a video. So an orthodontist wants to make sure that the midline lines up to the face and the facial features. So you want to make sure that that midline line is right at the mesial of 8 and 9. So what you're going to do is you're just going to place it on and you're going to get a loose fit. So you're going to see how long the wire is. Because when you put this on, you don't want it to be pushing back on their cheek while you're trying to get it fitted. So if it's super long, how this one is, then we're gonna trim it a little bit even before we start because we don't want it to be poking them the entire procedure. So let me grab the end cutter since I forgot. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna loosely cut some of the end off. So I have to line it up because remember that midline, I don't wanna just guess and cut too much off of the teeth. Now remember how the mouth is gonna be because we don't have any cheeks on these. Okay. So once we have it kind of loosely lined out, then we can go ahead and start putting our elastics on there. What you guys are going to do is you're going to do half mouth bands, half mouth ligature ties. Then you're going to go back and take the bands off and then do a continuous ligature tie, okay? So the pigtails and then the actual long ligature ties. So when you're doing this, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. And you just pull them off. And then the easiest way that I have found to do these is once you have your wire on, is to go across. So do it kind of opposite sides. So you put it on one corner, and once I do one, then I'll be able to show you guys a little bit better because it'll be easier. My wire's coming out. It's hanging. Let me run it through. There we go. So you put it on one corner of the bracket and then you run it to the other corner. So you guys can kind of come up and see it's kind of off side. And then what you do is then you can just take your instrument and flip it over the other two sides because it's already hooked. All right, so then you're going to do that across the whole arch, okay? Once you get that side done, then you're going to go ahead and do the ligature ties. What I'm doing is I'm just putting them through the wire holes so that it's staying. Remember that Ortho is sharp, so you can tear your gloves really easy. Okay, so then the ligature ties, I'll do the pigtail one first. Haley, Lonnie, will you grab me some hemostats, please? The hemostats.
Some what?
Scissor drawer.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna take these off since it is torn. So these are individual ligature ties. And they have a little loop on one end, and then they have a tie on the other. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna loop this around the bracket. And it'll kind of tuck itself underneath the corners. And then you grab some hemostats. Around that other end that was tied, and you just piggytail it. So you just turn it. Obviously you're not turning the patient's mouth. And it goes around the floor, and you just do it till it's tight. And what you can do is you can crimp it and then just go like this. Okay? Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Oh, what's that for?
Same thing. It does these all do the exact same thing. It's just the kind of retention that they're trying to achieve. So then with that, you can either cut off part of it or you can just tuck it underneath too. Just remember that these are sharp, and so you have to make sure that you tuck them so that they're not going to be jabbing into the patient's mouth, okay? And you can get your hemostats and kind of tuck it under, like so. Okay, so it's holding it on the same exact way. And then we have the continuous ligature tie. Woo. The end looks the exact same as that individual one that we just used. The other end is just open. Woo. And it's a lot longer. So you can do like a full quadrant with one. And what I recommend is starting midline and then going back so that if they get a loose wire, it's not sticking out on the front of their mouth. So again, you just put it around the corner of the bracket, and then you'll grab your hemostats. And with these, you're going to grab it close to the area, and then you're going to wrap it. Making sure it's around all four. And then just fell off, of course. And then at this point, you could either cut it or you can just move on. So you can do different ties. Like you can do that one, how it was a multiple tie. You could do just a figure 8 where you go around 1. And then you just figure 8 it and go around the next one. Just depending on what the doctor is trying to achieve. And then when you get done, you'll go ahead and just tie it off. And tying it off would be the same as what we did with that pigtail at the beginning. So you're gonna turn it one time, get it attached. And then grab your hemostats and lock it in. And then cut it off. And tuck your wires.
I think you should leave them.
Yeah, that would not feel good. Okay, so what you guys will do is play with them